Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us and giving us 1 hour of your Sunday evening, especially to our two panelists today. Thank you so much for coming here. And I think the easiest way to do this will be for me to let you introduce yourself. So, of course, the aim of this webinar is to help anyone who is looking to move to Dubai with a job in real estate. And we have two wonderful ladies with us today who have done it successfully. And I would love to hear from you. So maybe, Julia, we can start with you. If you just give us a brief introduction of what you do.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Duke-Vinton. I am currently a recruitment manager for One Investments. They're a real estate brokerage here in Dubai. I have a bit of a background in real estate in the UK, so my first job started out in an estate agency in Wimbledon in London. I always loved property. I managed to kind of weave myself into the marketing field, but eventually I came back to real estate, finished my master's in global development and planning, and then decided I would like to take on a new challenge. So moved to Dubai and started my journey here.
Thank you so much, Julia. And Sylvia, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. And hopefully we will help you all to land your dream job in Dubai real estate. So I have 22 years worth of real estate experience. I started in London. I'm originally Sudanese. I raised in London, and actually probably one of my first serious jobs was in real estate. I actually thought you had to have a degree to get into real estate, and it turns out you don't. And I didn't have a degree. I dropped out halfway through. And it also didn't stop me from excelling, because I got promoted within about 3 years to director level. And I kind of was at the top of my game for like 15 years, then got a bit bored of London and the rain and decided I needed to be in a sunnier climate. And I landed my dream job in Dubai in 2017, moved over, and I was working at that company for 5 years, took it from, a little unknown brand to one of the top real estate companies in Dubai. And then I left there and started up my own baby. I co-founded a prop tech startup. So I've got experience from the brokerage end and the technology startup end. And now I have I'd say it's the fastest growing real estate podcast called Golden Nuggets with Sylvia Aldawi. I also train brokers once they've landed their job and they need to get licensed. I do the courses through a company called ThinkProp. I'm one of the instructors, and yeah, I'm here to give you some advice, maybe shed some misconceptions, and answer any of your questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sylvia. So I guess we'll just deep dive a little. And the way this will work is we'll have about 35 minutes of us doing some questions about this that we have prepared beforehand, and then we will take questions from everyone in the audience. So please feel free to send your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A box. And Lamdi will be keeping an eye on that for us. But yeah, for now, Julia, I guess getting back to you, I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to pivot into real estate in Dubai in particular?
So I've always loved property. In the UK, even after I did my bachelor's in marketing, I was doing property courses. I was always doing online webinars, and I obviously worked in this agency in the UK. But I think most people know in the UK the market right now is in a bit of a dip, and it doesn't really work the same. It's not as buzzing. Whereas I was starting to look at international real estate and international property, and Dubai just kept coming up. It's one of the fastest growing economies at the minute, especially for real estate. It's one of the biggest. And during my research, I saw that it works kind of differently. It wasn't just you do a few viewings and you show someone a property and you sell them a house. It's the secondary market here, where people are buying ready-made properties, is actually only half of the market. Off plan is a huge part, and I found that more exciting. Seeing companies marketing their properties before even construction was completed. It just seemed like such a completely out-of-worldly idea for me. So that's kind of something that drew me to it in the beginning. So I was doing some research during my master's degree in global development on Dubai anyway. And then I think that kind of sparked that kind of initial idea about moving here. So after I finished my degree, I started looking at international jobs and a job for a real estate agent or UK real estate agent. But I saw that the location was in Dubai. I thought, okay, that seems perfect for me. So I applied for it, went through the interview process, and then, yeah, got the job. So really grateful for it. And definitely seems like the place I was meaning to end up. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I guess, Sylvia, the question I have for you, mentioned that you are currently active with training new brokers, and you probably have also been involved in hiring. What would you say are the main qualities and background that you look for in a broker?
Okay, so hiring, and I probably hired maybe over 800 brokers in my time. Unfortunately, probably also fired maybe a few hundred over the past 22 years. And I think for me, what I'm really looking for is, when I'm interviewing, my main barometer is, would I want to go out and have lunch with this person? Can I sit across the table with this person and have lunch with them? If the answer is no, then I know that they're not going to be able to build relationships with the people, because it's actually more about people than it is property. So it helps that you have an interest in property. It helps that you have knowledge in property, but actually it's all about people. So if you're a likable person, well presented, can hold a good conversation, that's what I'm looking for. And I do always do my due diligence beforehand. And I know, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, but recruiters are eyeing up your Instagram, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, and they're making judgments about you before they've met you or before they've approached you.
Okay, and I will get to Julia as well. Would love to hear your thoughts. But Sylvia, is there also anything in terms of actual qualifications that recruiters would look for?
So I tell you what, there is a lot of, I'd say in the last couple of years, there's been a real drive into real estate recruitment because of shows like $1 Million Listing, Selling Sunset. It shows the glamorous side, outfits, the money. So it's made it a lot more attractive. But ultimately, sorry, the question was?
Qualifications.
Qualifications, right. So what happened after COVID was a whole bunch of industries started laying people off. In particular, the airlines. And you notice a lot of people transitioning from being cabin crew into real estate. And they absolutely smashed it, because especially if they were business class cabin crew, because they really knew how to talk to people. They really knew customer service, professionalism, and so on. So I would say in terms of qualification, if you've done some courses in real estate, of course, that's going to be a plus. But what we're really looking for is your background, the kind of roles that you've had, whether they've been customer facing, whether there's been an element of sales in it. So a lot of people switch from retail. That's quite a common one. There's a lot of people that switch from recruitment, because rather than selling candidates, you're selling property, but it's a very similar style of work. Hospitality is another one. You're very good with people. So I think it's more your track record. If you've got quite a specific history or career history, like accounting or something, that doesn't require much human interaction, it's mostly numbers, or it's very logical, it might not be a good fit. But I mean, things there are exceptions to every rule, but definitely qualifications don't really matter. You don't have to have a degree. And in fact, anyone that comes from, with a real estate degree background or an architectural background would probably be better suited going into that specific rather than wasting away as a real estate agent, because more or less anyone with a personality can be a real estate agent.
I love that. Thank you, Sylvia. That was very in details. But Julia, I know you were also in HR and real estate. So we would love to hear if you have anything to add in terms of what would you be looking for?
100%, I would agree with Sylvia. It's not really about the qualifications when I was personally recruiting. So obviously the technical knowledge of real estate helps, but that's always something you can learn on the job. Most real estate agencies have their own training programs where they'll give you a background of the real estate market in Dubai and things you need to know, regulations and everything. But real estate here works differently to other countries. Personally, I compare it to the UK and saying that here, there's a bigger focus on prospecting your own clients. It's not like you'll have someone walk through the door and tell you that they want to buy property off you. You have to know how to meet people, network, build your own roster of clients and build relationships, like Sylvia said. So for me, what I was looking for is, definitely people in recruitment work really well in this role. I'd say if you've done any type of business development manager roles, those also are quite good to recruit from. Anyone who is good at, has a big personality and who can connect with people, I'd say that's the biggest asset you can have if you're looking to get into real estate. And definitely, I agree that I would look into people's backgrounds whenever I'm recruiting. If I get past an initial conversation with them, the first thing I do is look at their socials, obviously to make sure that their values that they portray align with the business values, but also just to see what their personality is like as well. I will say that it doesn't work all the time. It's not a rule of thumb. For example, I had a guy in my company. He didn't look like your typical real estate agent. He was really big. He used to work in security, so he was really big and brawny. He was covered in tattoos from neck down. He seemed kind of rough and ready. And my conversation with him was actually really good. He was really knowledgeable about Dubai. He'd done his research. But when I took his profile to obviously our leadership, they weren't entirely sure based on his look and his outward appearance. But when he came in and did his interview in our office, he won everyone over because you could tell that he had spoken to people in the past. He built those relationships. He's really he had the gift of the gab. He was an message voice, so he was able to kind of build those relationships really easily. So it doesn't always work out that way, but definitely someone who can build relationships would be more valuable in this kind of space than someone just with the technical knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And I think both of you kind of touched on this where, maybe the connections that you have, the relationships that you have here, it comes in really handy in the job. But Sylvia, I guess the one question that a lot of people have, if they're new to the region, they are not currently in Dubai and trying to move here, then how do you leverage the fact that you might not yet have that network accessible to you?
Right. So this is why it's really important to make sure that you land in the correct role, in the correct brokerage from day one, because there are quite a few companies which only want fresh agents. They don't want the agents that have the bad habits that they picked up in Dubai, or they don't want used agents, shall we say. They like actually opening up to international agents with or without any real estate experience even, so that they can be molded and grow within the team. So it's going to be a journey. And they do say that 86% of real estate agents will fail in the first year. So the odds are already stacked up against you. And what I would say is, in order to be successful, you really need to know that it takes time and you have to have enough to cushion yourself for at least 6 months. So if you come to Dubai, expect to not make a single dirham for 6 months. And that's very challenging to ask someone in their 20s or 30s to, gamble all their savings to get through. But if you make it, my God, the money that I have seen people make is unbelievable. And I'm sitting here thinking, how is this kid who's 22 years old become a millionaire? And I'm here working for 22 years. So, it doesn't happen for everyone. But if you come in prepared not to make money for 6 months and you go into the correct brokerage that's going to give you the training and support, then you can make it. In terms of network, they're making it very difficult now because of the increase in size in the industry. Just to give you an idea, pre-COVID, there were probably about 10 or 12,000 licensed agents in Dubai. Since COVID, which is only two years ago, there's now 24,000. So the number of real estate agents has doubled. And these people that have joined in, shall we say, don't have the experience. They don't have, they're all less than 2 years worth of real estate experience. So there is a lot of competition, which means that there's a lot of people cold calling or trying to close the same kind of clients. And what they're doing is they're actually harassing a lot of people. If you own a property in Dubai, you probably get 10 phone calls a day from a real estate agent who's just joined the industry saying, do you have a property to sell or buy? Or, do you want to buy or rent? And it's ruining the industry to some degree. So you really need to go to a brokerage that has an existing database that allows you to call. So it's not a cold call because that's now been outlawed, but you have a foundation that you can start building from. And then it's just about social media. I think is so important that you are creating content daily. Like the role of a real estate agent now is kind of like being a social media manager. If you can position yourself as an expert, as the specialist in a particular area and go hard with social media, you will start attracting leads to you. But it's a slow journey and but can be very, very rewarding.
That was going to be my next question, Sylvia. You already touched on it because also, Julia, you mentioned that you would necessarily check the social media of any new broker. So what would you say, how, obviously we've established that it is important, but how important are we talking about? Would you automatically disqualify someone if they don't have a social media following, or what kind of following is it? How big does it need to be? I'm sure a lot of people have these questions on top of their mind. So Julia, maybe you can start.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I would disqualify them if they didn't say have a huge following or they weren't posting the right amount of content, but it is something that I would factor in, especially these days. Like Sylvia said, there's so many agents on the market doing the exact same thing, trying to prospect clients in the exact same way. You need to have an edge to be able to stand out and ultimately to make your money a bit faster. So what I would suggest is that people utilize things like Instagram, LinkedIn especially. LinkedIn is a great place to share your knowledge and position yourself as an authority on real estate in Dubai. And I don't think that enough people utilize it as a social media platform. So I would say that if they have something like a LinkedIn where they're constantly sharing posts and they're keeping up to date with what's on the market, 100% they probably move to one of my priorities in terms of recruitment because I know that they're going to be able to use, they're resourceful, they'll be able to use different resources to close deals and not just rely on calling the clients that are in the database that we have.